Hey there, math fans. In this video, I'm going to go over Chapter 4, Section 1 again. We're solving quadratic functions. This is just an additional video, um, just some additional practice, kind of recap what I did in the last one. So we're going to solve quadratic functions by factoring, and then we're going to solve them by the square root method. And at the bottom of the paper, you see I wrote solve by graphing. That's just me writing the calculator steps again for you. I'm not going to do any calculator problems in this video. I'm just going to go over these first two sections. So let's get started, okay? If I'm going to factor this, everything needs to be on one side. So I'm going to add this 12 over, and that'll give us a total of 14 on that side. So x squared minus 9x plus 14 equals 0. So next we need to think of the factors that multiply to get 14 and add to get negative 9. And if you think about it, that's going to be negative 7 and negative 2. They'll both multiply to get positive 14, and they both add to get negative 9. So I say my next step is x minus 7 and x minus 2 equals 0. So remember, you can just flip the signs. In essence, you're just doing this. X minus 7 equals 0. One number minus 7 equals 0. And x minus 2 equals 0. And that's just going to give me 7 and 2. Alright. And that's all we're looking for. Okay, so let's do the next one. Here I have 10x squared plus 12 equals 26x. So, minus this over because everything needs to be on one side. So, if you'll notice that negative 26x will become your middle term because it doesn't combine with the 10x squared or with the 12. And so now I have everything in standard form. What I notice here is that these are all even numbers. So they have some common factor. And if you think about it, the greatest common factor they share is actually just 2. So if you see that, factor out of 2, in other words, divide 2 by everything. So 10x squared divided by 2 is 5x squared. Negative 26x divided by 2 is negative 13x. And 12 divided by 2 is 6. And then equals 0. Okay? So I have my greatest common factor on my outside. That'll stay there the whole time. But now, you take that front number, multiply it to the back. And so that's going to give me 30. And the middle number is negative 13. So what multiplies to get 30 and adds to get negative 13? Well, that'll be 10 and 3, and they're both negative. It's tempting to say 15 and negative 2, but that multiplies to get a negative 30 and not a positive 30, so you need two negative factors here. So I'm going to say 2 times x minus 10 times x minus 3 equals 0. Okay. And now, since I multiplied a 5 to the back, I'm going to divide that out. So I'm going to divide out 5 from my binomials. And so let's see here. I'm going to write down the simplified fraction. So x minus, 10 over 5 doesn't make a fraction. That makes 2. But x minus 3 over 5, that would stay like a fraction. It's not going to simplify. I was thinking the other one was 5 over 10 as I started talking, but it's 10 over 5. 5 over 10 was simplified to 1 over 2. But, okay, from this step, you can gather your solutions because you're just flipping the signs. And so I can say that x is going to equal 2 from right there. All right, and x is going to equal positive 3.5 from right there. All right, 3.5. Did I say 3.5? 3 over 5. All right. But let's finish factoring this. Just swing that bottom number of the fraction up front. So the final factored form is 2 times x minus 2 times 5x minus 3 equals 0. And that's the final factored answer. These are your two solutions, roots, x-intercepts, zeros, whatever you want to call it. We're done. Okay? Now, let's solve by the square root method. In the square root method, remember you want to try and get x squared by itself, and you won't have that middle bx term. Okay, that's how you know you're going to use it. So I'm going to add 11 to the other side. So it's like instead of getting everything on one side, you're getting everything over to the other side of the equal sign. So 2x squared equals 50. Now I need to divide by that front number. Okay, and now I have x squared equals 25. So, square root both sides. And remember, what's the square root of 25? It's 5. But, what can you also square to get positive 25? You could also square negative 5. So remember, all your answers, every time you take the square root, is positive or negative. And in this case, it's positive or negative 5. Okay? Number B. Letter B. Alright, I have a 2 on the outside. So I'm going to divide it out. And then 36 divided by 2 is 18. So x plus 1 squared equals 18. And now, to get rid of the square on the outside of the parentheses, this is where I will square root. So I have x plus 1 equals the square root of 18. So let's talk about the square root of 18 for a second. Square root of 18 is, we're trying to simplify it. 18 is 9 times 2. Alright, so you can write it as the square root of 9 times the square root of 2. And the square root of 9 is 3, and the square root of 2 would stay behind. So 3 square root of 2 is the same thing as square root of 18. So I'm going to write over here, x plus 1 equals 3 square root of 2. Alright? Oh, and then don't forget your plus or minus. And then I just need to minus 1 to the other side. And so you have this little statement here, x equals negative 1 plus or minus 3 square root 2. So this is generally acceptable for the final answer, but just so we're clear, you're doing two answers here. X equals negative 1 plus 3 square root 2, and x equals negative 1 minus 3 square root 2. You know, you could type that into your calculator and get the decimal answer of whatever that is. But, you know, usually when it's not like nice, neat whole number answers, you know, it's okay to leave it like that. But I just want to make sure you understand what that means. Okay? So, with that being said, let's do letter C. X squared plus 1 equals negative 6. Okay. So if I minus 1 over here, that's not really going to change the fact that x squared is equaling a negative number. Okay, so if you take the square root of that, you're going to get no solution. So you get no solution because you can't take the square root of a negative number. Okay, so don't forget that. And that's pretty much all I wanted to go over. Again, these are the calculator steps. I do have a video of me doing it on the calculator. I'll put the link to that in the description, and also the link to the first video of 4.1. But other than that, I hope this helped. Stay tuned for Chapter 4, Section 2. Alright, bye everyone.